welcome everybody to the Volpe Creates Show, the weekly talk show about. Sorry, I'm rearranging my life here with a dog on my lap. The weekly talk show about video games, the game industry, and game development. I am your host, Chris Volpe, joined as always by Baby Girl and intern Lucas. How are you doing this week? I am great. I am great. Here, baby, you want to go? I think she wants to go up here. Oop. I put a bed next to the iMac so she can sleep on the bed while I'm doing work. And now my cat and my dog are fighting over the bed, so I don't know how long that's going to last. But special guest, Zach, how you doing, man?
Hey there, I'm doing all right. Yeah, pretty uneventful day so far, which is not bad for my line of work. No emergencies, no fires to put out, so doing good.
That's good. Yeah, Zach, you and I have known each other for, I don't know, a decade, give or take. It's been a while. You're part of the Columbus game dev community, the Ohio game dev community, the GDEX family. Let's see, what else did you do? You're also part of Cleveland game dev group. You were involved in a lot of groups here in Columbus. But now we've lost you. You're out and about, out of Ohio. You want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself, what you're doing now, and what you're involved in?
Sure. I'm Zach. I'm a video game developer, currently working out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Wish I were back in Cleveland, where I grew up and got my start making games. And hopefully, next couple of years, we'll see that triumphant return. But until then, I'm out here. What are we doing? I work on a number of personal projects. I work on contract work, but some of the biggest things I do are I've got a few games that you can find out and about. Latest one was Zardy's Maze. It's an indie horror game where you run around a procedurally generated corn maze and nothing bad happens. It's free on Steam and it's a good time.
Nothing bad at all happens?
Not a single thing.
Oh, that's great. I don't mind games where you just kind of hang out and nothing bad happens. So, you were a part of GDEX since pretty much the beginning. I actually use you quite frequently as a story for GDEX because the whole reason GDEX exists, www.thegdex.com for those interested in attending. We're getting more information up there every week. But the whole reason we started it is for a way for what originally was Columbus developers to showcase what they were working on. And before we even threw the first one, it ended up becoming all Ohio developers. And then before we even got there, we ended up with developers from like across the Midwest. So that was our first show. But you came in pretty early. I think it was the second year when we were in COSI. And you took part in our rapid pitch competition. And you had this idea for a game where it was like a multiplayer kind of chaotic fun game where you would run around and try to, kill your opponents with I think you had like a bow and arrow idea and like bombs and some other things. And you won the pitch event because we all thought that I was on the panel. And I think we just all thought you had this really cool idea. But one of the things that was the takeaway, and I'm going to take credit for this. I don't even know. I think it was my suggestion, but if it wasn't, I'm going to take credit for it anyway. That the suggestions we made was that you had a lot going on, but it seemed like the bombs were the most fun part of your idea. And so our suggestion was, why don't you try just messing around with the bombs for a little bit and see what happens? And you're one of the few people in life that's taken my advice. And you came back the next year with a prototype, which was really polished, to showcase this idea of this bomb-based game, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think you won one of the awards that year. I think actually you might have won several awards now that I think about it.
All of them.
Yeah. And then the following year, you took the advice and you came back and you had a really stellar booth and game. So that game, of course, was Bomb Fest. How you want to give us like a little rundown on your process and thoughts on Bomb Fest? It's a pretty amazing game. It's also out for sale right now.
So uh, some lesser known history and not a mark of shame, a mark of growth. The
Okay.
year before Bombfest, or the prototype for Bombfest, it was called Well Wishes. You can actually, I uploaded it to Itch, and you can download that version for free through my Itch channel. I'll throw that in the chat here in case anybody is interested. Um, yeah, and it's still a charming prototype. I enjoy it. I really want to revisit the idea. But the year before I brought that to GDEX, I brought a different game to the pitch competition. I I wish I could remember the name. It was dumb. It was really dumb. It was memey. But it was a multiplayer bullet hell where you're on a sphere and there's no enemies. Your ship keeps shooting and can't stop shooting. And the bullets become satellites that circle this sphere and never stop moving. And they just go and go. And the only threat to you is yourself, as you are constantly creating new
Yeah.
projectiles and the other players who are doing the same thing and trying to survive. I was I was second place that year, so I came back with something different and new. And Well Wishes was honored to walk away with the Unity 5 license, which back in the day was a one-time purchase to use Unity professionally.
Yep.
And
That
I
was
said,
yeah, Unity was a sponsor for us for several years, and you got one of the Unity Pro licenses.
"Oh
And I
man,"
think it was off to a I think it was well used.
I said, "This has got to be serious now." And yeah, turned it into the prototype that became Bombfest. Um, Shoot, released that, was that a couple years ago now? I'm trying to remember. 2 or 3. I have here it is. I'm silly. January 31st, 2009, released Bombfest. Uh, as Sudden Event Studios through Whitethorn Digital, and to Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. And really proud of that. That was man, it was a really exciting moment. Mostly to say that my game was on Switch, but also to say that it's on those other things too.
Those other things. Uh,
The ones
yeah,
I
man.
don't own.
You spent a lot of time on that because I think um the first GDEX that you would have come to I think would have been 2014, and then I think so. So if you're looking at 20, let's say 2014, 2015 ish to 2019, you're 5+ years working on that project.
Oh yeah,
That's a long time. How'd it feel to finally get it out there and have people playing it? I mean, you'd been like at GDEX and stuff. You'd been doing booths and having people play it for years, so you've been getting
yeah.
feedback and stuff. But to
Oh
actually have it
yeah,
out there in the wild,
yeah. So like kind of the first exposure was GDEX, of course. Um, we also got to take it to GDC, PAX South, and PAX East, which was a riot. Um, just because it was so scary and different. And really nothing to make you feel small than being cuddled with that many people, and
hmm
also to make you feel isolated. To give
really,
GDEX credit, like I can walk around and get to know everybody before the show's over, which is
Y-
an absolute joy. Whereas other shows, it's so overwhelming. It's like I'm gonna walk away with three names, and I'm not gonna talk to them again. It's like,
yeah.
oh man. But anyways, like I got a story that I don't know if I've told before about launch day. So I got connected with some friends who stream. Um, they're part of a group called Drawfee, which has a YouTube channel where they draw suggestions and make horrible, wonderful drawings. And they had offered to stream Bombfest on release day, which was super humbling and super cool. We go to release this thing. I'm there with the team and the publisher, and we've got the envelope with the day one sales. And we crack this thing open, and we've got like we're just at this party. We crack it open, and um, who was it? Matt White from Whitethorn opens that letter up and says, "Well, it's not the worst one I've seen." It was
That's a good
like
start.
120 sales, I think, day one, and
Mm.
it was crushing. I was there with my fiance at the time, and It was like you got to put on a good face. You're surrounded by your friends, and it can pick up. I mean, many local multiplayer games of that day and age had a real slow crawl to improve. They
Sure.
usually started with a stronger spike, but it was really humbling. We started driving away. That is where I got this charming little you released a game trophy, which I keep close. Um, as a reminder, I released one. Driving away, and I was heartbroken. I'm like, I invested all this time. Like, I thought I was like gifted to make games, and that was my calling, my spiritual calling. And I'm like, oh man, this is proof that I failed. And my fiance was doing the best to encourage me. Then I get a message that my friends from Drawfee had gone live and they were streaming Bombfest. And okay, that's cool. And also that the game wasn't running. And I was like, oh, insult to injury. Like,
Oh
this
man.
sucks. We pull into an Applebee's parking lot and I pull up their stream and I start messaging them in the chat. And lo and behold, before I could even get there, they solved it. They started playing. They are just having the greatest time. It was incredible because they had 2,000 people watching at the time, and it was like, oh gosh, like if 100 people had enough faith to pick this up and didn't get a copy from earlier promotions, and yet they can pull in this many people and just show how fun it is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not, at the end of the day, it's not the sales or day one sales or sales at all. It's when people sit down, do they have a good time? And that was the validation that kind of pulled me through and made that day a good day from what would have been one of the worst days of my career as a game developer. I was ready to throw in the towel, but then it was like, no, here's a nudge. Here is people having fun. They didn't encounter any major bugs, and it was like, shoot. I always say Bombfest isn't a bad game. Was it a commercial success? No, I won't say that. But is it a good game? Yeah, you sit down with some friends, you will have a good time, guaranteed. And that's the big takeaway from Bombfest. And that's what I gave my talk on last time I was at GDEX a number of years back. I think it was called "Failing to Succeed." Um, it was the Bombfest postmortem talk. Um, that was a really good time too. So thank you for that as well.
Anytime. I think obviously whenever you put a lot of your heart and soul into something and it doesn't get picked up, it is a little soul crushing. It's just it sucks. But the other side of that, and this is where the importance of um, community, networks, publishers, all that stuff. The field is just so crowded these days that it's hard to get out there, which is why I keep kind of trying to, and we're trying to think of new ways every year at GDEX where we can be promoting people. So we're trying a press thing this year, where we can reach out to like more press agencies about what's going to be at the show, because dude, I share it. My other side gig, I don't know, I got like 8 side gigs, so whatever. Um, but False Flag Games is my board game design company, and we have a product released through WizKids called DiceBot Megafun. You can buy it now.
Hmm.
And we are excited because WizKids is a big publisher. Like they're a big publisher. And the whole process, and I'm not this is honesty corner here, right? Like the whole point of these conversations is to talk about these things because there was a lot of steps along the way where I had like uncertainties or red flags or whatever, but I don't like false flags is me and 2 other people and we kind of work and together. And so, there's a give and take. And I think there was this desire to like, let's just get the product out. Like, let's just get something published, which I totally get. But like my business kind of sense was throwing these red flags at me. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna pick my battles here, right?
Hmm.
And there were just a lot of things that personally I wasn't a big fan of. But the thing that kind of disappointed me the most is they did a release of our game at Origins, actually.
Oh wow.
I don't know, 2018, 2017, I can't remember. And it wasn't in any of the promo materials. It wasn't in any of the like Origins has a part where it's like, hey, here's the new releases that are going to be at the show. It wasn't in that. I didn't see any really social media pushes about it, and it just felt like, well, of course it's not going to sell well. Nobody even knows it's here,
Mm.
right? Nobody even knows about it. And a couple people played it and, gave it some decent reviews and stuff. It was similar to Bombfest where it was designed to be a quick, fun party experience. You know, it wasn't going to change the board gaming landscape, but we thought it had a really fun loop, and everybody that we played it with, and when we play test our games, we play it with our friends. Our friends aren't going to bullshit us. Like if they don't like it or something's broken, they are going to tear into it. They're going to help us figure out how to solve it. And that's what we're doing with, we have another game, Bug Planet and Villains. Those are two games that we're working on right now, trying to get out. But it was disheartening when I got like my first check and it was like $13 or something. And I was like, what the heck? I was like, all right. I cashed it and I kind of wish I would have just like framed it or something now. I don't know where that check is. Uh, but it is disheartening. But the thing I'll say to you is like, for whatever this is worth, you can throw it in the dumpster if you want, but I wouldn't have given you the Unity Pro license on the pitch event if I didn't think your idea was good. You wouldn't have won the awards at GDEX in subsequent years if I didn't think you were onto something. And every year that we do GDEX, we generally sell out our booth spaces. But inevitably, what happens is like a week or two before, somebody hits us up and they're like, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it. And we have like a 30-day refund thing, but I try to be as accommodating as I can for folks. But like most of the time, I'm not going to be able to sell a booth a week out, right? So we always end up having these like little pockets of one or two or three booth spaces. And without fail, every year you're one of the guys we go to where it's like, hey, do you want some extra space? Because I know your booth's going to look awesome. It's going to be filled the entire weekend. People are going to be laughing and playing games and having fun with Bombfest. So I think, from my perspective, I think you have a win with that game.
I really
So
appreciate that. Yeah, and that's I'll say it again and again. It's a good game, and I say that to encourage myself because it's too easy to get wrapped up in
it is.
numbers or how often people talk about things or hashtags on Twitter. But in reality, it's like when you're at a show and somebody sits down and they pick up a controller and something surprises them in a good way. It's
Yeah.
like, oh shoot, that's awesome.
And we went to, I think last week I was talking about this. But one of the cool things that like makes my old man heart warm up is that seeing folks come to GDEX. I feel like this is like the GDEX hour. Well, it wasn't intentional, but uh, they'll come to GDEX, like they'll exhibit for the first time, and like their booth's a little rough around the edges, right? Like they don't have banner printing, they don't know where to go to like get certain items. It's the first time they've ever exhibited at a show, which is fine. Then they learn from the people around them, and they come back the next year. I think you learned a lot. Like the last year you showed up, you had like couches, and it was like this lounge, like basement feel. It was awesome.
Mhm.
But one of the things I really love is when I go to stuff like PAX and I see previous GDEX like family member exhibitors at the show. And I think was it 2018 when the last time you exhibited, and it was like you were there, Collapsis was there,
Mhm.
I think the Mage Quit guys were there. There was like a dozen different groupings of GDEX people that were at PAX East, and I was like, that's awesome. And I would
Yeah.
I would jump back a lot between you, Mage Quit, Collapsis, and yeah, I think Jeremy's business was there. There was a bunch of people, and both you and Mage Quit, your booths were like filled the entire weekend. So, I mean, they wouldn't do that if it wasn't fun, right?
Hmm. That's the ticket. Yeah.
So now you just got to
Yeah.
make some money on it.
It would be nice. Wouldn't
Yeah.
quit my day job, but it's not a bad day job, so I can't complain too much.
Yeah, yeah. So you're still doing game development. I don't know, you want to say on the side or for
Oh
fun,
yeah.
or how would you phrase it?
So if I had to explain my job, I think I'm a full-time homemaker and also full-time freelance game developer. Um, we're down here in Oklahoma because my wife is a resident doctor at the program in this area,
It's good
which means we're
you
stuck
married
for
up.
3
That's
years.
good.
You see, I can make games as long as we
Mhm.
marry a doctor.
Yeah.
Um, let's not talk about the debt or the crippling depression that makes her want to quit. But
You'll figure that all out.
good gracious, doctoring is a whole nother discussion. I don't wish it on anybody.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't know if you know, but I was I mean, I've got 2 graduate degrees in healthcare, and I was in pre-med for a while.
oh wow. Oh,
And
you know
I
some of
so
that.
yeah, I was in pre-med going towards I took the MCATs and everything, going towards an MD degree, and then I got kind of like sidelined for a second with a public health course. So I was taking public health courses while doing like finishing up the pre-med requirements because I went to school for photography. So as you can imagine, there weren't a lot of transferable credits from photography into medicine. So I had to take a lot of
X-ray
classes.
attendant?
But yeah, I know what it's like.
So yeah, that's my first priority is always make sure that on top of house stuff. I am um they made a TV show about me on Netflix called The Way of the House Husband, and it perfectly describes my life if anybody's interested. Not sponsored. But it's it's a lot of housework, and then it's a lot of doing contract work, which is the main way that I'm bringing in some money here while we suffer through residency. And
Hmm.
I've got, let's see, I think I've got 3, maybe 4 contracts right now for different organizations and teams to produce an array of things. I've got there's a education based tool I'm working on. I'm working on VR products, um, and I'm working on games. So Zardy's Maze was teaming up with Swanky Box, who's
Mm. Yeah,
one of the
Brad.
larger Cleveland area YouTubers. Does a lot of horror content and decided let's make a horror game. Um,
It's too spooky. I can't do it.
yeah.
It's too spooky.
In all honesty, if I didn't make it and I didn't know exactly how the characters worked, I wouldn't play it. But
I
I
thought nothing happened. I thought it was just a nice walk through.
well, you know, the corn rustles and the wind blows, and that's enough to
Okay,
give me the heebie-jeebies.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, and then there's the scarecrows. But
I've
it's a
told
lot of.
this.
Go ahead.
I've told this story before where this was like 15 years ago or whatever. My roommate would go up to Lodi, Ohio, beautiful Lodi, Ohio, because he would do pizza deliveries on the weekend. So I was like, the weekends I was just by myself, and this one day I was like, I want to play a new game, something new I haven't played, right? And so I made some dinner, I got a bottle of wine, I like got everything set up, turned off the lights. I was like, I'm gonna play Dead Space 2. I played Dead Space 1 and I enjoyed it, even though it was scary. I was like, I'm gonna play Dead Space 2. I put it in my Xbox 360. I sat down and like the menu came up. And I was like,
Mhm.
no, I'm not doing this. And I took it out and I played a different game.
No joke.
I just couldn't do it.
Oh, I have such fond memories of hating Dead Space 2. I played it all the way through, and the cross your heart and hope to die part is still burned into my memory. And
I
I
know
want to.
there's a lot of things in Dead Space 2 that like I haven't really been spoiled on. I know there's something about an eyeball. Um, but there's a lot of things that like people reference that I was like has stayed in gamer culture
Hmm.
for so long, and I always feel like I should go and play it to experience those things, but they all sound unpleasant. I don't know what they are,
It's.
but no one speaks about them, and like, and then I walked away feeling real good about the world. I was just like,
Well, I will not spoil anything eyeball related about Dead Space 2. It has to be experienced, but it
okay,
doesn't have to be experienced. It's yeah, it was a turning point in horror game, um,
yeah.
in the history of horror games, and I can't recommend it and tell you to avoid it at the same time.
Well, they're
Because
remaking Dead Space 1, so I assume if that does well, they'll remake Dead Space 2.
oh man,
So I'll probably end up playing that, which probably means it will be worse because now we have like real technology to like make things even freakier, you know?
oh yeah. Even just sound quality is what I think of when I think of like next gen horror games. Make me
Yeah.
feel like I'm there even more. But oh yeah, goofy stuff. I don't know if I'll be making too many more horror games in my day. I've got some other fun ideas in the works, but
Yeah.
it's definitely very cool getting into that space and learning what makes a horror game, and not only that, but how can you iterate on it? There aren't any procedurally generated maze horror games out there, to the extent of my knowledge, at least not in the style of Zardes with a traditional shaped maze. So
Okay.
it's really fun to work
Is,
on that.
is that game out on market yet, or are you still working on
Zardes Maze is out on Steam for free, PC and Mac, I think. Um, yeah, it's a good time. it's
it?
it's it's incredibly difficult. Is
Okay.
two things I can say about it are it's a corn maze and it's incredibly difficult, but
Okay.
it can be learned and it can be outsmarted.
It's getting very positive reviews.
It's that's
So,
exciting. Bombfest doesn't have enough reviews to have a rating on Steam.
oh really? Oh,
Yep. I
well,
think I
maybe we
can
can
find it
change that.
internally. But yeah, Zardy's Maze is. I am ever proud of how well it's performing. It's got a
That's good.
tiny little viral. I'd say it's got a cult following, a baby cult following. I mean, we get fan
Yeah.
art every day. It's goofy. And a lot of that's attributed to Swanky Box and
I was
his
gonna say,
designing.
you got Brad um, behind the helm on the Swanky Box side, so that definitely helps because he's got a really strong audience that loves his stuff. And he's been a speaker at GDEX numerous times. Actually,
Oh yeah.
I owe him a reach out. Thanks for that.
I can give him a nudge because I'm sure he'd have a good time here too.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I've been like I try to like dole out my requests, particularly since it occurred to me the other day actually, and it occurred to me too when I reached out to you. But like because of the pandemic, I haven't really been interacting with most of the folks I normally would. And like I at least see you at a minimum at GDEX every year, sometimes a couple times, like if we went to Cleveland or something. And now I feel like I'm just like coming out of nowhere being like, hey, do you want
Yeah.
to do a bunch of stuff for me? You want to be on your show? Do you want to come to my expo? And I'd be like, I also haven't talked to you in 2 years, but so Brad's like one of those people I don't think I've talked to in like 3 years.
Mhm.
No offense, it's a pandemic. I was
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
was bunkering into my house, not doing anything.
Well, I can encourage you. It was exciting to get that message because it's like, oh yeah, like let's let's hash it out. Let's have a good talk. Like that's
Awesome.
it's awesome. Yeah. So I was looking
No,
forward to it.
I appreciate you all being here. I started this. What are we at? Is this episode 8, Lucas? What are we doing? This is 8, right? Are we at 9? Time flies. Time flies. But it's been fun, and I just realized I've got a pretty big network of folks, so we might as well just sit and chat about stuff. So, are you um are you ever itching to kind of go back? Because Bombfest was a small team. I think what did you have like three kind of core folks?
Yeah. So it was myself. Marissa Hike was our art director, and um, we had a. I'll upgrade him. Matthew Trowbridge was our sound designer, and then we
Okay,
had a number of wonderful composers and help from Whitethorn for the porting and testing nonsense that was. Oof.
sure.
But yeah, it's wonderful working with a small team. All of my contracts so far have been small teams, which is really nice. I'm talking, I think the biggest has been 6 people.
Okay.
You get to
Are
know
you working
everybody.
with Are you working with Exultant right now?
I was
Or
working with Exaltant for a
okay,
time.
because
Um,
yeah, we just had Jason on a couple weeks ago.
yeah, I want to watch that one. Yeah, Jason is wonderful to work with. He's shoot, he's got such a bevy of experience. It
Oh yeah.
was like, how can I turn this into a mentorship?
Oh, totally,
It was,
totally. He's got. I mean, his experience is insane. He's a nice guy. He's got like it sounds generic, but he's got the heart of a teacher. So like he
mhm.
wants to teach.
Oh
And then we
yeah.
we ended up talking about his Tesla for like 10 minutes, and then we talked about the Witness game for another 15 minutes or whatever. Um, but are you ever itching to get back to like just locking in on a project, like one project with either just you or maybe bringing some friends in? And does that itch hit you every so often?
Oh man, I think that's the end goal, to be honest. outside of supporting and raising a family, it's getting that next idea going and out there. I've got two prospects right now that I've been working on. One that I think, um, one that I'm shopping for publishers for. So just to see
Okay.
if it's ready to get out there. I've run it by a few people so far for some detailed feedback, and it's reviewing very well, which is super
Okay.
exciting. But the
Well,
next step is
maybe
once I've
offline,
got
you and I could talk about that too.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. That was part of my goal here was to say extend that
Or if you
extend that
want to talk about it
invitation.
now, it's up to you. If it's not ready for the limelight yet.
Oh, well, sadly, I do have a demo, so
Okay.
when the time comes, yeah, I'm happy to show off some. But yeah,
Yeah.
we'll be talking because Multiverse is on my list to reach out to.
Yeah, we'll
Um,
definitely swap out because that's our secret special thing for this episode is you wanted to showcase some behind the scenes stuff. So I figured we could do that. And do you have I should have asked you this before the show, but do you have a hard stop at any time?
nope, I'm good to go for the next 2 hours.
Okay. Well, I don't think
We'll
we're
see
gonna
if
do a
I can
2 hour
last,
one, but
but
yeah. uh, but that's awesome. So that's the one idea, and then you said you have another one you're
mm, I've been
simmering.
I was streaming for forever, where I would just develop ideas live. I used to make games in under I do a 3 hour game. I used to do 2 hour games, and that's buck wild. But 3 hour game jams, just self-imposed, make something as quick and dirty as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the short reason I do that is to stay in practice the basics, practice starting projects, debugging quickly. But the true reason to prototype like that is you want to test every dumb idea in the world to see if
Sure.
something sticks. And the first two games I tested um, were combined into this new idea. And it's like, holy crap, that can be fun. That can work. Um, and one of them that I've been working on the stream, or when I was streaming consistently, was the spiritual successor to Well Wishes. So Bombfest was the bombs of Well Wishes, where Well Wishes was this bow and arrow sword, top down run around little guy, basically a Zelda, basically a 2D Zelda with physics. And I have been just dying to get this game made. It's called Peasant is the project name. It's got online multiplayer already. We've had some fun playtests on stream, which has been awesome
Okay.
because it worked. And
Yeah.
online, I've been trying for
Because
years
when it
to
works,
do.
that's mhm.
Yeah, like I've been trying to learn netcoding for years. I spent the first few years begging Evan Todd to do the netcode for me. Um, and he's unavailable. But then it was, can I learn this? Can I do this? And yeah, oh man, it is coding for multiplayer slows everything down to a crawl, but there is no joy like seeing your creation move and
Yeah.
knowing that that's somebody somewhere else walking your character around and stabbing you in the chest with a spear. It's like, oh,
Uh,
I enabled that.
I would suggest another thing is chat with Tom on my team.
Mhm.
Like he's got a lot of like netcode experience, so I bet he would love to just pick your brain and think about what you're working on. So that's
Sure.
another thing. Happy to help out with. That's awesome. So are you between these two? Do you have a favorite, or are you just bouncing back and forth between the two?
So I've probably got 5 prototypes right now that I bounce between. I found in life that if I don't have a personal project that I can make easy, um, notable changes to or improvements to, that I will crash and burn because I'll be invested in something, can't solve a problem, hit a wall, and then sulk for a week. But um, out of the 5 or 6 I've got right now, um, this other one takes the cake for two reasons. One, I there's nothing like it, and two, it's quicker to make.
That's good.
I'm no online multiplayer for this one, but something to something for people to hopefully enjoy and to get out there and see what people think. But yeah, it's feasibility is the deciding factor for what's my current focus. and
Yeah,
boredom.
scope control is a big thing. It's I teach. You talk about getting ideas out there. I teach my students about like the rapid ideation process, like how to get prototypes up and running, because it's everyone gets excited about the big picture. I was like, why don't you just start like get the core idea experience down before you start creating these grandiose things.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, if your scope, it's real easy for your scope to get out of hand if you're not careful. But I think like even with like Bombfest, that felt like a very. I know you went back and forth on some things over the years, but it felt like a relatively tight scope. Once I think you figured out what you wanted it to be,
Hmm.
um, it got better every year, but it never like ballooned in some weird way.
Exactly. Yeah, it was the encouragement I give for prototypes is at worst, make a Mario Party minigame. At best, make a Mario Party minigame with more features and customizable controls. And that's
Yeah.
where Bombfest basically fell into the scope of this could have been a Mario Party minigame all on its own, but it's got enough depth and it's got enough chaos to it that would never fly in a Nintendo title. Um, at least not as the core mechanic.
Okay.
That it stood out as this is different. This is Bomberman and Smash Bros and sumo wrestling with explosives, and it worked.
All right. All right. Yeah. Yeah. There's a in art school there was a saying that has always like stuck in my head, which is if you can't make it good, make it big, and if you can't make it big, make it red. And this is obviously for photography. Uh, and it was just this thing that always stuck in my head, which is like there's always a way to make something good in like a different way. That one's a little bit of a cynical line, which is like if you can't actually make something good, you just sort of you make it bigger, and then people will be impressed by it. But
Mm,
when you're thinking about scope and stuff, you'd be surprised. Sometimes there is an elegant solution that just appears one day to you, and you're just like, oh, that
it
works.
clicks.
That you know,
Yeah.
I remember
Oh yeah.
once for Hatchet, we were doing a design meeting. We were like 80% of the way through the game or whatever. We were having trouble like solving this one issue, and one of our interns was like, there was like 8 of us in the room. One of our interns was like, what about if you did that? And we all just kind of stopped and looked at him and like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like that was the best solution. But we were so in it in the design, that we didn't see like the simple solution sitting on top of it. And we tried it out and it worked. I was like, there you go. Are you still using Unity? Oh, did I lose your? Can you hear me? I can't hear you
I'm sorry
anymore.
about that.
There we go.
I was stifling a cough and forgot to unmute my mic. Yeah,
There
so
we go.
definitely been using Unity these days. I do some work in Unreal as well, Unreal 4, and I tried some Godot, and I'd be happy to approach it again someday. But Unity is just it's where my proficiency is. It's where I can make an idea in
You're not building your own
3
engine.
hours. So yeah, that's my what I'm most comfortable with.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember you mentioned Evan Todd. I remember having because we hosted him in our office for a while he was working on projects, and he was building his own engine. I was like, why are you building your own engine? He's like, I just want total control of everything. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, man. The time you're spending building the engine. I mean, he's made great stuff, so I'm not going to criticize his flow. But I think sometimes just, being bound within the constraints is annoying, but if you deal with it, it can save time. I mean, it's just like the Apple ecosystem. Sometimes stuff's annoying, but if you're willing to like be annoyed by it, then the just tends to save you a lot of time.
Hmm.
Um, well, we're getting a little tight on time. Speaking of, do you want to show us your behind the scenes thing here?
Sure. Let's let's make sure this. Hmm. That's a really good question. Yeah. I would say first and foremost, go to shows. I know it said what else, but that is the best way. You're going to find developers in their element, talking about what they love, and ready for those conversations because they want to network too. Second best, look up for local meetups. I didn't go to Cleveland Game Devs for a year in my game dev career because I didn't know it existed. And then somebody else asked me, hey, are there any meetups nearby? I Googled Cleveland Game Devs, sent them a link, and then said, huh, I should go there too. The third option is, and I'm going to discourage it, and take this with a grain of salt, and that is connecting with groups online, whether it's a Discord or it's a forum somewhere. It's a way to make a connection, but I'll tell you what, if you can invest that same time in being in front of another human being and talking with them, if the pandemic has taught me anything, it's that seeing someone's face, like actually interacting with them and taking the time to be in the same space as someone makes all the difference in the world when it comes to forming bonds and to creating a friendship that can last or become a business partner, or like you've got to get around the people who do the things you do. It's a lot like skateboarding. If you're trying to teach yourself skateboarding, for example, and you've got no one to look to and you're just watching YouTube videos, you might be able to learn something. But more likely than not, you're going to flail around, you're going to push Mongo, you're going to make rookie mistakes, and you're going to hurt yourself. Because just watching somebody really doesn't show you how to do these things, or just have it explained on a forum somewhere. It's something where it really makes the difference, even if it doesn't feel like it, to be there real time and to be just around people who share the same passion. So maybe not the answer you're looking for, but I hope that's helpful and encourages you, if you've not gone to a show, to leg it out, go to GDEX, go to your local show, or go to your local meetup and meet some people who
Yep.
like the same things.
I would agree. I would add on, just for the non-show part of it. This is a little bit of a slower burn, but find like a Reddit community based in something you're interested in, or if like you're working on a particular genre of game, this game is like that game, you can hang out in there. Those things take a little bit longer because you've got to be there for a while, because
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to come across as like, hey, I just joined this community so that you can promote your stuff, right? So you're gonna need to build up that thing. I even feel like the same way, and this is mostly just because I suck at social media. But like when I go to promote GDEX, we're a part of like different Reddit subreddits on GDEX, and I just go with like boom, boom, and like, so I'm really only in the community a couple times promoting GDEX. Uh, but that's just because I suck at social media. But
It's
you
hard.
can, yeah, it's a lot to stay on top of. But then you can also spend time, and this is a really important part. I can't remember if you're working on a project or not, but the person asking the question. But if you're working on some sort of project or game, start like a year or more ahead of when you think you're going to launch, and start doing little promo stuff, hanging out in online groups, those kind of things, so that you can kind of share what your progress is like over time. And then that way you'll start building people that are interested in not only the game itself, but hopefully interested in seeing you succeed.
Mm-hmm. 100%. That slow burn, it sucks, but it's worth it, and it's required in a field as saturated as ours.
Yeah. And then eventually you do tip over into a space where like it's kind of exciting, where people are excited about what you're working on. It helps keep you kind of motivated. So yeah. All right, man. You want to show us what you got? Lucas, you want
Sure.
to switch us over to, if you haven't
So
already?
I to help the explanation real quick, just the quick demo is, this is my cell phone, for example. This is a wonderful tiny little Tech Deck fingerboard, and the game, when I don't drop my phone, looks a lot like this. Um, it's Tech Deck on your phone. That's
Okay.
step one. Let me swap on over here. Hopefully, is everything up? Uh, all right. So this is what I'm calling Tomahawk right now. This is a game. It's a mobile game. At the bottom here, you see we've got a little board, like the top of a tech deck, and I can swipe here, and I can move the character around. You might even be able to hear it. And that's pretty simple. I can stop and do a little break here. I can also click on my board, or if I'm using two fingers, put two fingers on the phone, do a little lolly. If
Oh,
I
look at
wanted
that.
to, let's see if we can do this. Oh, there's a pop shove it. Let's see if we can do a kickflip here. There we go. That's satisfying. I'm unreliable with kickflips. That's double hard flip. Okay, well, I
Nice.
stand corrected. we that's step one, but I'm not making a skateboarding game. It's what if you had not only skateboard physics that were as responsive as they could be.
I mean, we're whatever. We'll just keep going. We're really far
Hey, we got
behind.
hopefully a local recording going, and we'll be good.
Yeah. What?
No worries. I've said my piece. I've I've ruthlessly tried to sell something you can't buy. So I've done my job.
Sweet. Well, if you just want to, yeah, put us back. Oh, I think we are back. Okay.
All right.
I think we're back to something. I don't know what the hell we're back to, but
I see the two of us, I think.
Okay. We'll take it. All right, sweet. Awesome. Well, we are getting close to ending our time together here, Zach, but I really appreciate you being on the show. It was fun chatting with you, and I want to get you back out to Columbus for GDEX someday.
100%.
Is there anything else you want to chat about before we end? Any place you want to direct folks? Any social media or anything?
Sure.
Before we...
best way to reach me is approach me on the street and shake my hand. But if you can't manage that, especially in the pandemic, all my contact info is zachfierce.com, ZACFIERCE.com. And you can find me on Twitter at zachfierce as well. Feel free to reach out. I don't do social much, but I respond and I'll get back to you. So please feel free to reach out. It'd be a joy to chat with you and just talk games and shoot the breeze. Especially if you're working in Unity and you've got questions. More than happy to even take a call and work through some stuff. That's my joy.
Awesome. Well, Zach, thank you again for being on the show. Thank you all for watching and getting us through these dark times of the internet falling apart. We appreciate you sticking around. Lucas, you ready to wrap this thing up? All right. Well, let's start it. So again, thank you all for watching. I'm Chris Volpe, the host, joined by Baby, who's asleep. I don't know if you can hear. You can't hear her snoring.
Uh-huh.
All right. I was trying to see if you could hear her snoring or not. I can hear her. I can hear her over here. So, but also GDEX. We've been chatting a lot about it, but make sure to check that out. www.thegdex.com. If you are wanting to be a part of the fun, you can also go to volpecreates.com/discord. That will take you to this Discord channel where you can come in and chat about stuff, or you can join the Twitches at twitch.tv/volpecreates. But otherwise, thank you all again. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you next week, where our special guest will be Grant Kirkhope, the composer, who is always a good time to chat with. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend not missing that one. Again, every Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern on the Twitch. But other than that, have a wonderful weekend, everybody. And thank you again, Zach.
Thank you for having me. Have a good one.